Okay, ladies, let's get seated. We are here and we are on time, but we were working. We were signing Valentine cards for our college students. So we want all of you to sit, listen, and so we can get started on our WMC. There will be time afterwards to restart signing. We'll quit in time, so we want to get started right away because it's 7 past. So we like to be on time. That's our pastor. Don't start late. So we started working. So thank you for being here. And we're going to start with prayer requests for here. Now there's one I think of when I look at Vicki, her husband. Vicki Jordan's husband had eye surgery. One eye so far successful. The other eye will be when? March 7th, surgery on the second eye, and the pressure on the first eye is very successful, so we are so glad for that. So I know that's one prayer request we have. Kim Cummings just came from her house. She was to start chemo Friday, but how many remember what happened on Friday? It was a little bit icy. And so it was canceled. She was waiting for a phone call to reschedule when we were there. We were there about an hour and a half ago, and she's very tired. But other than that, it's doing okay. So pray for Kim Cummings. She's going to have chemo, had breast cancer. Okay. Yes, ma'am. Danny was and wasn't and is again. Oh, good. Danny Ripley is having surgery. Hernia surgery? Okay, hernia. Thought I remembered right. Come right on in, ladies. Hernia surgery on Friday. So let's remember him. Okay, yes, ma'am. His right hip is gone? "42 years old, Rodney." "42 at disability." Pray for him. Pray. You can't realize I've lived almost pain-free all my life, but when you're in constant pain, you can't realize how much it is until you're there. You know, if I have a hangnail, I'm in trouble. So, okay. Yes, ma'am, Vicki. 28 years, that is Tom. I was going to say. And Joyce Hurley's funeral. Oh, Joyce. Chuck passed away, and that one is the 26th, last Saturday of the month. Tomorrow, many of you do not remember probably a shut-in, but she's been a part of this church for years. Just talked to her, Millie Sprayberry, Mrs. Sprayberry. Sometimes my mind, Frankie Sprayberry. Her son passed away of cancer, and that funeral is here tomorrow, viewing at 10 and the service at 11. Pray for Millie Sprayberry, Frankie Sprayberry. They were very, very active in the early part of our church, and she would still come. I remember the last time she came, sat right back over there and slept. She has major, I mean, she's just 92, 93, I think, 93 years old, and just loves the Lord so much. But you can't imagine sometimes when the health issues, great lady. You can sleep when you want to. If you get to be 92, 93 especially. Now, 90, you got to stay awake, folks. Can't go to sleep yet. They're going to have, they have the service, and then they go down to the military, and so they secured a place so everybody doesn't have to come back to this area. I talked to her today, and she said, thank you much, but it just works out much better to have it down there rather than to come back here and then go all different directions. So that is the Sprayberry service tomorrow. Now, we will have a lunch for the Hurleys after that. It's a memorial service for Chuck Hurley, and we will have the service here at 11, dinner right after that. So that is on the 26th, last Saturday of the month. So we have had Minnie, Estelle, Terry. Is it Estelle? Yes. Just recently lost her husband, and so we've had several that have, and it's you don't know what it's like till you've been there, and even you say, well, I know how you feel, but you really, because every situation is different. They just different. It's personal, so we need to pray for those people. Okay, am I looking? Yes, ma'am. Your father, I'm not hearing you. Oh my, your dad has pneumonia. Is it COVID pneumonia or just pneumonia? Just pneumonia. But he's had cancer and he's had a lot of health issues. And when you're so far away from your parents, that really makes it even tougher. Okay? Let's pray for her dad. Any other ones that I'm missing here? See, I started to write a list and didn't get to it. Just trying to remember people. Afterwards, I'll say, why did I forget them? So let's remember to pray for these dear people, for these dear families that are going through heartache and sorrow. That's really a great thing. Father, we thank you for the ladies that have come tonight, and we pray for these many various prayer requests, so many needs, so many heartaches, Father, and yet praises from your name that you have healed and helped in many areas. So bless these dear friends and these dear loved ones, those going through memorial services, funeral services, Father. Just give them peace and help during this difficult time. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is birthdays. The first one I want to call, Blanca, come up. It's not your birthday, I'm sorry, but it's your husband's birthday this month. And he is not a lady, and he is not here, but he helps us a lot in our sound booth, getting our videos ready. And so when I passed, I said, we need to say happy birthday to Brian. And Blanca, you'll probably get the cards anyway. But at least give him a chance at the candy, okay? And Rosemary, come up, please. Rosemary Nelson, where are you? Birthday lady this month on Valentine's Day, isn't it? It is. Thank you very much. Rosemary is, she helps me every week. A blessing indeed. So we want to wish her. I don't see my Miss Gia. Is Pam here? I don't see Pam here and Gia. Now we have several here that I might not have your birthdays down. Do we have any other birthdays I'm missing? Whose birthday? Is that your birthday? No? Whose birthday? Linda? Well, we need, you circle leaders, you need to help me. get these birthdays that I might not have and make sure that I've got them because I want to remember their birthdays. We're so glad. The next thing I want us to do is we've got several ladies here that maybe it's their first time. Okay, are you ready, Karen, with anybody in your circle? No, Elaine's new. Elaine Holt. Marianne Allen. And somebody else in your circle. Dana. I mean, she used to be here, but we're so glad she's here again. Saw her, Dana. Very good. Okay, circle 2. Looks like no new. Circle 3. Do you have anybody new or circle 1? You do. Pamela's been here, but I don't think we've ever really introduced her. Pamela, we're so glad. And your arm is doing okay. It still hurts. How did therapy go today? So it didn't hurt as bad. Okay. Because it's still hurting. I told her mine didn't hardly hurt at all. I just didn't move it. I just hold it right here. Yeah, don't hurt. Okay. Well, we're delighted you're all here. Next, is the video ready? We have a problem? No volume. Okay. If we don't have any volume, I don't think they'll know much about the pictures. Any volume at all? No? Okay. Well, but it doesn't have any captions, I don't think. If you did have captions, we could maybe read, but I looked at part of them. I think it's talking about their building program. It's from the one that's just moved to Honduras. Circle 1, tell me who that is. Lead K's. I knew the name, but it just wouldn't pop into my mind. The Lead K's, and it tells about their building program. So we're just going to talk about missionaries. We're going to have each circle, and then if they haven't covered some, we'll just ask more questions because we really want to learn how to pray better and more for our missionaries. So we're going to start with circle 1. Are you ready, Rhoda? Okay. Give us a more report than usual and give us details. Any that I know several have had, a lot have had the virus. So give us updates if you know they're better, they're whatever. So give us some updates so we can all, even if it's not from your circle, you can remember to pray some for them.
Hello, my name is Rhoda, and I'm with Circle 1. Some of the updates that I just got was from the Mortisons in Honduras. He had started a teaching theology on Sundays, and that has been growing. So pray for that. Pray for spiritual growth. The attendance has been up. Several have followed the Lord in baptism. And pray for growth in the church plant in Santa Barbara. And they will be helping them host an MMO evangelistic clinic, but I'm not sure what the MMO means yet. I don't know if that's like a missionary medical mission.
We support that. They had it at their church last year, and that's what it is.
Medical, okay.
Wonderful.
I had assumed that's probably what that was. Okay. Yeah, medical, okay. Now I got that one. I did get a letter from Joe Moody from Light the Window, and they've had a major problem with their house right now, so prayer for that. Foundation issues, and they've had to do a complete renovation, and he is temporarily in Carolina. Somebody's letting him stay in a house in North Carolina. So pray for him. If you're sending anything to him, still send it to the Sarasota address. It'll just be a big delay in getting there if you're doing anything like that. Pray for the McCoys. She had posted something. They're in Alaska, and the temperature's down there like 17 below right now, and the wind is really bad. Do what now? 50 below. The one that she had posted on there, she goes, it's quiet, but the wind was really bad, and their tower that they just had done is swaying. So they're praying that that tower will stay up. So pray for that. The holidays with Eurasia Bible Ministry, they are committed to print 1,000 Pashto Bibles this spring, which is the language of the Afghan. And they said through the humanitarian aid, their team was able to assist families of the wounded soldiers in Armenia. They also gave out over 200 packets with toys and Bibles to orphan children of the soldiers who lost their lives in the recent war. So pray for them, for that ministry. The Carneys, I got a letter from them. They had a medical group from the USA that went with them to 3 villages. Hundreds were treated for general medical reasons, and even more for their eyes. They shared the gospel with them in groups of 10 or so, and about 60 people asked the Lord to save them. So they want to thank for the monthly support that we send them, and that has made that a reality. And it had brought us to Mexico and has helped to keep us there for 30 years. So they've been there for 30 years in Merida, okay? And let's see here. The Schertzers are actually moving to another house this week. So pray for them that their transition will go really well. They've had this will allow them to open the ministry inside the home and bring more people in there. And so the homeschool meeting has been thriving. And I think that's probably just about it. Pray for I do want to say every time that we do this, the Mumpers in Canada are really struggling. They've been there for a long time, and they're getting up in years. And physically, they cannot do a lot of the work, so they're asking for help. They need some assistance. Spiritually, they're just fine, but physically, they're not able to do a lot that they normally could. So please pray for them. And I think that's about it. Thank you.
When I got the letter from Alaska, this was last month, 50 degrees below. It warmed up just a little bit, and it sleeted, rained 6 inches of solid ice. So when you thought we had it bad on Thursday and Friday, I just go, oh, it's not that cold and it's not that slick. So sometimes we really need to pray when you just don't understand sometimes the conditions that they have to work in and through. And pray, especially those medical missions, outreaches, really do get into a lot of homes that they would not get into. They had one last year at their church, and it just was a real success. And so this is a part of their outreach program where this is going to, the best I can understand the letter. And so we need to pray for that because they'll reach people that would not be reached otherwise. So let's pray for Circle One. They're missionaries. They have them in Canada, pretty cold, and Alaska, and in Greenland. They haven't arrived there, but they're in a cold country. They talk about the temperatures so cold. So, Rosemary, Circle Two.
We have a lot of missionaries that are still going through issues with COVID in a lot of the different countries. But the ones in Australia, the Marshalls, Joe and Melissa, they're planning on coming back here. Their oldest daughter's graduating college here, and so they're going to be here for her graduation, Lord willing. and their son Josiah, he just graduated high school, and he's going to stay there because I think he's taking college online, but he has a full-time job where he's got a assistant manager position there, and then while they're gone, he's going to be taking care of things in the church. He's a Sunday school teacher for the toddlers already, and he's in the music ministry and stuff, so we need to pray for him as he sort of takes over during this time. And then in Fiji, I know I've told you all a lot about the coups. They've gone through a lot. Martha came back and had surgery on her leg for cancer. She's doing well. Their oldest son, Paul Jr., he had COVID, and he was in serious condition in the hospital. He's doing much better. And I believe their youngest grandson of their youngest son and his wife, they're taking care of things in Fiji while Martha and Paul are here. He got really sick, and I think it was with COVID, and he is doing better also. Martha and Paul will be leaving here next week, the 16th, going back to Fiji. And please keep them in prayer because Martha has serious back problems as well, even though her cancer is in remission right now, and the doctors over there are going to keep a close watch on her. They still have a lot of issues, and their family goes through a lot of struggles as well. And then in New Zealand, we've got, it's the Hoffmans. I forgot to put their name on here. The Hoffmans, they're close to they're close to the end of their support, but they still need about $9,000 for things like rent and a vehicle and plane fare and quarantine, because whenever they get over there, they're still going to have to do the quarantine thing. And he has applied for a critical worker visa over there, and I guess the pastor over there is trying to get that for him. Right now it's been denied, but keep that in prayer so that hopefully in May, when they're able to go, he will be able to have that before they do go. And then, I forgot to mention Gary and Mindy Tingson. They were here this past year. Maybe, was it last year? The Tingsons were here to Australia. Gary and Mindy Tingson last year. They're expecting their fourth child. And also in New Zealand, we have Sam and Juliana Hutchins. They're expecting their fourth child. And everybody's excited about this. And then in the ones to China that we have in Korea right now, they're waiting to get for the doors to open in China, and so he's working in Chinatown in Korea in the ministry there, and they have been living in a one-bedroom apartment with 4 kids during this time, just trying to make it through. And the Lord has blessed them with a mission house, and it's got 4 bedrooms. So they're going to be able to live there until the Lord opens the doors for them to go back to China. And then James and Rebecca Scott, they're in Japan. And before they left to come home on furlough, their youngest baby daughter, she's really young, her visa expired. So they went ahead and came home, but before they can return, they've got to try to get that. And of course, with COVID and things going on, and them stepping up the rules for the COVID over there, they're concerned about that. Being able to get back over there anytime soon. And then in the Middle East, as you all know, the Terrells, they're in Baghdad. They had to go to Turkey for about a month because of their renewal of their visa. A lot of these missionaries have to go out of the country for a while and then come back. So they're asking for prayer for the stability in Iraq over there, because due to the deadline that the government, U.S. government, was given by the Iraqi militia to withdraw all the troops, and they've been shooting rockets over in the area where the trails live in Baghdad. And so they're asking for prayer for wisdom in making decisions in the upcoming days regarding serious concerns with their family and what they need to do. That the Lord will open doors or show them, what they need to do over there, whether or not to stay or come home. And then in the Philippines, we have the Beemans. They were here this last year. They had 3 little girls, and they're at 76% of their support. And she has completed phase 1 of 4 phases of getting her citizenship over there. And just recently, the Philippines had a phase 5 typhoon, and then there was an earthquake, and it's really, a lot of people died, and there are a lot of people can't get food and supplies, so they ask us to pray for these situations over there. And in South Korea, the Songs, they were here many years ago. They have 3 daughters, and the youngest one has had a serious medical problem, and they say it's penile. She has a penile cyst on her brain, but evidently she has seizures. But they said in the last couple of months she's been doing well. She's not having the seizures, and that's a praise that they had. And she was talking about some ladies in their church that it was amazing that one of them came. She had her husband, I guess, seriously abused her, and she had a domestic violence situation with her husband. And then another lady, her husband, I guess he misappropriated their savings, and they lost over $200,000 in that. And Rose is saying that she was like a miracle that these women are there at church and their husbands have been coming to church. And that, the Lord's brought them there, and she wanted us to pray for these 2 ladies. And that's basically everything that I have for tonight.
And there's one more baby coming to New Zealand, the Bankstons.
Oh, I don't think I knew that.
It's in their letter, Bankstons. So we have 3 new babies. Oh, you don't, okay. Sometimes the letters don't go through to them. Bankston, so we have 3 new babies coming. We have you heard anything from the one that had COVID at Mongolia? I haven't heard. They've gone back and they're quarantined? Now, the Richies. Do you know this is one added? Each missionary, when they go, they talked about the money they needed. They have to raise enough for car, a house. In most of these countries where they go, they have to have a big deposit for a house. They have to have deposits for all their utilities, much bigger than we have to have. And they have to have a lot of money up front. Now they've added the quarantine, and you don't just get to go anywhere you want to. You go to where they want to, and you pay what they want you to pay. And so it'll run up into several $1,000s extra that our missionaries have to raise as they go. We have about 6 or 8 missionaries that are right now either got airplane tickets bought or they have they're working very close to getting and leaving for the field. And in your circle, that's one really important, especially first-time missionaries, because they have a lot of extra expenses. They have to have all those deposits, and then they have all the culture shock, and then they have I can't even understand all the things they have to go through to get there. But now this added cost of quarantine, they'll make them stay 2 to 3 weeks. One missionary, praise the Lord, they got out in 2 weeks, and they were so happy because that cut out several dollars. Yes, ma'am, Vicky, Rosemary. Uh-huh. Right. And he had to just pay a year's rent for for a house back in China that he hasn't been able to live in 2 years because they were here a year. It's been 2 years since they've left at least. But they are doing something. Some missionaries kind of get stuck and you think, they're just, but they said, well, we're going, because in Chinatown, Korea, Chinatown, lots of Chinese. So they're still ministering to Chinese as well as the others that would be in Chinatown in Korea. So that is a real good thing. And of course, the Lamans are still trying to get back in China. And their name is not a good name to have in China because his dad got kicked out of China. And now names follow. I mean, with the computer system and they can track you anywhere. You think you can hide, especially if you're a missionary with the name of Layman trying to go back to China. So we need to pray for them and other missionaries. One just decided to give it up, waiting to get back into China. Now we're going to hear from Blanca and circle number 3 and hear about a new baby.
All right, good evening, everybody. We pray for missionaries in the Caribbean and South America. The first one on my list is Peter and Elizabeth Putney. They're in Colombia. They are currently looking for property, and so they have a building fund. Pray that they are directed to just the right location and the right property. It's very expensive right now. I think I've mentioned month after month about Colombia, that they're going through economic crisis and just the government's unstable there. So just praying, because they have it in their heart to purchase their church, purchase and have their own church building. They are also trying to get their residency visas. They have visitor visas, work visas, but they're trying to actually get residential visas. So just be in prayer as they prepare their paperwork in the next month. Clifton and Tiffany Booth in Chile, they also have a building fund. It seems like all my missionaries that are coming up, everybody is doing pretty good, that they're all trying to find property. So just be in prayer that the Lord leads all of them to the right piece of land and that they can build. They are still under COVID restrictions, so just be in prayer. They're still doing mixed live streaming and stuff, so just be in prayer that their church members stay faithful. Keith and Mandy Moore is going to Ecuador. Here are missionary family that is waiting to depart. They have tickets purchased for March the 7th. They had an appointment to get their visas a couple of weeks ago. They had to reschedule to February the 15th, so just be in prayer that they're ready for their flights on the 7th of March. They're asking for prayers that they're going. They don't have a house, they don't have a car, they don't have anything, so just pray that when they get there, they find everything. And then, of course, for their transition, they are traveling with 4 children. So please lift up the Morrises going to Ecuador. The next missionaries is Paul and Amy Valles. They're Turks and Caicos. They have a building fund. They actually received property with a house, so their building fund is just to remodel it and get it to where they can use the structure for their church. They're all in the process. They currently have windows sitting in Florida, so just like everybody else, things are on ships. Just pray that they can get their material down there to Turks and Caicos quickly. Mark and Emily Mariner going to Suriname, that is in South America. There are another one of our families that are getting ready to leave to the field. They're at 100% support. The only thing that we're waiting on is for their baby, Faith, to arrive. And if y'all got mine, there's a beautiful picture of them. That is on her birthday. And she was born on February the 2nd. They have flights that are going to go to Guyana. If you remember, we had the Woodards last year here that are in Guyana already. The Mariners are actually going to go into that country first and work with veteran missionaries that are there, and then transition into Suriname probably after a year. But they have flights purchased for April the 4th, and the only thing they're waiting for is they were waiting for baby Faith to be born so they can get her paperwork ready. So that is all they're waiting for. So just pray that everything goes smoothly and that Faith's visa will be ready by April 4th. Rom and Rachel Ribeiro, they're missionaries to Brazil. They have planted 6, starting on their 7th church, but their latest 2 churches that they're active at, they need to recover numerically since COVID. Their membership is very low. Their enrollment in their school has dropped drastically. They are barely surviving. They have the enrollment dropped so much that they just have enough to pay the taxes, but they don't have enough for operational costs or pay the teachers, any of that stuff. So just pray that the Lord will provide for them. They've had the school open for numerous years, and they really do not want to have to close it. Our next missionaries are Robert and Rhoda Smith to Barbados. They are celebrating 18 years in Barbados on the 20th. And they were missionaries in Africa for 15, 20 years before that. So they've been on the field for a very long time. So that is a praise. Robert has already, sorry, I had a lot of itchy eyes, allergies. Robert has already obtained his citizenship or residency in Barbados. So now they're working on Rhoda. So just pray that her paperwork will go through. And also for her health. She has many health issues. That's one of the reasons they left Africa. So just be in prayer, because it seems to be getting, she keeps struggling every month. Every time I read a letter, she continues to struggle with her health. So just be in prayer for her. Robert and Ariana Woodard, they're in Guyana. They've been there now 3 months. 2 months on the field. So just keep praying for them, because everything's still kind of new. They had Christmas, out there, their first Christmas. But they have been granted permission to go into a school and have Bible club on Wednesdays. That's huge. So big door for them to reach out, kids Bible club. Then you bring in the parents. So they're just asking for the Lord to bless with this new ministry for them. John and Nisha Harris in Peru, they have started their raining season, and on top of the raining season, they have another wave of COVID, so things are not that great in Peru. It's a gloomy season for them, and just be in prayer. There's landslides, shortage on food, just everything that comes along with bad weather, and another wave of COVID, so just keep them in prayer. They are also trying to build a church, so they do have a property fund, so just be in prayer. They're very humbled at the fact that even though their members are struggling very deeply, they're the ones that provide a lot of food. Their members are still making an effort to give what they can to this building fund, so just pray that the Lord will bless them greatly there. Earl and Tammy Hammonds, they've been building a house for the Haitian pastor that runs their Haitian ministry. That is almost complete, and just keep praying for their seminary. It seems like in the Dominican, in his ministry, they're always growing, and their ministry's always growing. If you all know Earl, he just attracts people to him, and I just think, the Lord just blessed him with that personality, and so their church is thriving. And just pray. He's got all kinds of ministries. I can't keep track of them, but just pray for he's asking specific prayer for his seminary students at this time. Jonathan and Janine Autry in the Dominican, they're also building a new church. They're still short $125,000, so this is a little less than half, so they're more than halfway there. So just keep praying for their building fund. They're also helping a different Haitian pastor build their church, so they're asking for prayers for that other building fund. And also, I shared several months ago about Janine having that car accident where she hit a motorist that was as she was pulling out of church, and that man was killed. And her court date is actually coming up in the next couple of weeks. So just be in prayer. They have video that their church recorded, everything. So just pray that, when they're in court, because of course they're in a foreign country, that just everything is very clear on the video. And, they know they will have to pay monetary to the family. It's automatic whether it was her fault or not. But just pray that the Lord's with her. She's had horrible time since that accident, just all kinds of anxiety, stress, and just be in prayer for her. Last that are not on my prayer list is Justin and Evelyn Cox. They're going to Venezuela. They're also another missionary family that was here last year for a conference. They're getting ready to go to the field as well. He is coming back this week. He just found an apartment for their family, I believe, outside Caracas, maybe. Don't quote me on that. But he found an apartment, so he is coming back and getting his family ready, two little boys and his wife, Evelyn. And they are going to go ahead and be going to Venezuela here probably in the next month or so. So they're waiting on paperwork as well. So just pray for all these visas.
I want to reiterate Jonathan and Janine, is it Janine Autry? That is a very special prayer request. When you are an American, you live in their country, sometimes because they think every American's a rich anyway, and sometimes it can be very, very bad and hard. So, and emotionally, it's hard when you've hit something, even if they pull right out in front of you. I mean, it was something that it wasn't her, it was unavoidable, and that makes me think of we need to pray for our Danny too, because someone pulled out and hit them, just turned a corner right in front of them. So these accidents, but especially pray for the Autrys because of that accident, because it's a lot different there than it would be here. It's the consequences and things can happen, and emotionally they go through a bunch anyway, but especially living in a foreign country and an accident like that happening. So we need to pray for them, and so many building and people, there's missionaries leaving. That's why I wanted the ladies. I'm really not even sorry our video, because I really wanted to hear about these missionaries leaving and I've read most of these letters, but I'm still absorbing all of these facts to help my prayer time for these missionaries to be better, because it's so important to remember to pray for them. Now we have Circle 4 and Karen.
Okay, everybody sit back and get comfortable. So, I'm not reading my list, but y'all have them, and there were 8. I did 40, there's 28. Okay, everybody should have gotten one, and just read it. Sally Stennis had eye surgery last week. It was her second one, so they came back to the States for that, and she's doing real good with it, and they're still here, I think, but they're going home in February, I think. Maybe March, but anyway. And so just remember her in prayer that everything heals well and she does okay. So my helper or secretary, Glada had asked me last night to take one missionary and just tell about the Harmons. Some of y'all know what they've gone through in the past month, and some haven't. So Vicki did a timeline for me. I have 9 pages of what went on in the Harmons' life the last month. So here we go. So they were already planning on going to come back on furlough for 6 months. They have a rehab facility in their church where they help people, and one of the guys, they tested him and he tested positive, so they kicked him out, and he got all upset and he was going to sue them. And then a couple that had been helping in the rehab thought they should get paid, and so they sued them because they didn't get paid, and it's just been a mess. So they've been talking with their church here and trying to make arrangements to come back, and this was back at the end of last year. So they were already planning on coming home for 6 months worth of furlough. But then on January the 7th, Tom wasn't feeling too good, and he thought he had food poisoning or the flu or something. And then Kelly was very sick, so they wasn't sure if it was something they'd eaten or what was going on. And then on the 8th of January, they were watching her oxygen level and her blood pressure all night, and she was completely unresponsive. She was just out of it. And so they couldn't get an ambulance to come and get her. And so some friends came over and put her in a truck and took her to the hospital. And at the hospital, they tested her for COVID. She tested positive, and she was still unresponsive. And so after talking a little bit, he couldn't go into her room. He had to watch from outside the room. But Medevac said she was required to have a PCR, which is a positive COVID test, which takes 3 days, this special kind of test. And she was totally out of it. So they didn't want to have to wait 3 days. And so they tried to find another thing to do. It said Kelly was finally able to talk to Tom, but that was down the road away. So they couldn't wait 3 days. So they got a hold of the International SOS, and they requested a flight to take her to Johannesburg, South Africa, to a better hospital if they could get her there. So they loaded her up, put her on the air vac, took her to South Africa. She got to South Africa. She had no shoes. They didn't put anything. She had no shoes. She had one sock on and one sock off. And she was totally out of it. She didn't know what had been going on for 4 days. And they had no details yet of where which hospital in South Africa, where she was going to go. He didn't know anything. So if you get a chance and want to go on Facebook to Tom Harmon's, he did videos, daily videos, to bring you up to date on what was going on. And you can just see in the month how it's taken a toll on him, because he has the 3 kids. They have a daughter, 10, that just turned 10 last week, Emma, and they have a 6-year-old Ethan and a 4-year-old Grace. And so he was trying to get packed up to come home on furlough, take care of the kids. They had to test before they could go to South Africa, where Kelly was, and 2 of them tested negative, 1 of them tested positive. So they couldn't leave until she was in quarantine, and they got her, so they kept having to retest to see. They all had to have negatives before they could leave. And the doctor said it was okay for her for Kelly to be transferred, but they said that she might have brain issues that will need to be addressed. They said 1 out of every 1,000 people that get the COVID have brain issues. So they was afraid that she might have it, but she didn't, thank goodness. And she was there, and the flight that took Kelly, being it is Sunday, may take extra time for paperwork. pushing for evacuation this evening. Tom and the kids to follow in 3 days, but they weren't able to follow in 3 days. And so they got her to South Africa, and she woke up and was able to call Tom, and then her phone went dead. She didn't have a charger. She didn't have anything. So they said a friend that was there in Johannesburg, I thought maybe it was the Matneys, but the Matneys are in Durham. So I don't know if it was them or if it was another missionary family, but somebody took her a charger and got it all fixed up so she could call again. And the billing office was not open on Sunday, so they had trouble getting all of that situated, and it was just a nightmare. And then another complication was the ongoing stuff that was going on in Tanzania, where they're missionaries, because of the accusations and the suing and all the stuff that was going on with people there in their church. I'll say, and then she got to South Africa, and Tom had the kids and was packing up. So Tom has said a couple of times in his videos that he knows now why the Lord gives you wives, that he needed her and he really missed her, but for other reasons, but that was one. It was kind of funny. And so it had been several days and then not heard her voice. The 3 kids didn't know what their mom, what was going on and how she was doing, and they hadn't been able to talk to her. So it was really a hard time on all of them. And then on the 11th of January, they retested. Gracie and Ethan's were negative, and they were still waiting on Emma's. And so they were stuck there for 3 more days because they had to wait for Emma's. And they got a message from Kelly, not heard anything from the hospital. She called awake and didn't remember anything from Friday and found out she was in Johannesburg. She didn't even know where she was. And on the 12th, there was no update, and that's when her phone died. And then on the 13th, Kelly got a SIM card for the phone and a charger and other things. They were having to go through immigration paperwork so that they could leave when she got better. And they were waiting on all of that for the test results. She had a blood clot in one of her legs, and so it was still swollen. And that's why they didn't put a shoe on it, because it was too big. They couldn't get any of her shoes on it. So somebody had to bring her some shoes that would fit her so that she could exercise in the hospital. And then the oldest daughter had a birthday on the 16th. It's her first time to ever be without her mom on her birthday, so she was having trouble, and Kelly was sad that she wasn't there with them. And then the 14th of January, they retested Kelly, and she was still positive with COVID, so she couldn't leave. She had to stay there. They had to keep monitoring her and watching over it. She was not able to leave the hospital. She was able to get up and walk around the hospital, so I guess she must be in an area where they had COVID people, or they wouldn't let her, you'd think, walk around the hospital. But anyway, and then Tom and the kids got cleared to take the test again earlier than what they had thought. They had many praises that the Lord took care of them. And so they took it, and all of them tested negative. He found out, I think, Monday evening. They packed bags, and they were flying out on Tuesday to go. I think he said he was up like 72 hours straight, and he took the kids to the airport and had them bunked out. They had to spend the night in the airport, and he didn't go to sleep because he wanted to make sure nothing happened to the kids while they were sleeping. And he did have a funny story to tell. The 4-year-old wears, they called them nappies, but pull-ups is what we call them, a diaper at night, just to help if she had an accident. And he forgot to pack them, and he forgot to pack her extra clothes. So he went all over the airport going up to people and saying, "Could I buy a diaper from you?" I'm sure they looked at him like he was a little strange. But nobody had any extra diapers, so he went to the pharmacy and bought adult diapers and masking tape. And he took the diaper and taped it around her. And he said it was the funniest thing. So he said that was his daddy fail, and he really did miss Kelly because she wouldn't have gotten off without everything they needed. And so they made it to, it was like a lot, 9 hours they went, they headed to the airport Monday, 10 a.m., South Africa, 9-hour layover in Johannesburg, 1-hour layover in Nairobi. And he was worried about the luggage, but everything got where it needed to be and everything was okay. And then because Kelly couldn't get out, they were at the matinees in Durban, and they were there waiting till she could fly from Johannesburg to there. And so he went and has a video of her coming out of the hospital there and him being able to see her for the first time. And they've spent some time there with the matinees and have been able to rest and reflect, and the doctor has given her approval to travel, so they are leaving tomorrow to come home, and they're going to be, let's see, where did it say? The flight's booked to leave, and they're going to go from Durham to Johannesburg. There's a 2-hour layover. There's a 16-hour flight to Newark, New Jersey, a 6.5-hour layover, and Detroit on Wednesday around 3 p.m. So they'll leave in the morning, and they'll get here Wednesday. Well, they'll get to Detroit, which is where they're going. They've also had a cyclone they've been having to watch that's on the side of South Africa, and they were afraid that it might affect the flights, but it looks like it's gonna, that it didn't. And they could test, they all have to test again before they could leave, so they wanted us to pray that all the tests would come back negative, because that's all they'd need is to get a test. And you have to go through, their government, you have to go through our government, you have to have all your money in place, you have to have, we just get on the internet and book a ticket and head out to the airport and we're ready to go. But it's just different for our missionaries, and you don't stop to think about how much they have to go through and how much they have to deal with in just everyday things that you're sick and you have to go through things that you just think we take for granted a lot of times. But remember them in prayer and pray that while they're here that they will get refreshed and the Lord will show them what they need to do when they go back, and that they'll be ready to hit Tanzania again in full force. Okay?
It gives you just a little idea of the extra that they do have to go through, especially when you're shipped off and she's there and doesn't even remember a thing, but I guess enough paperwork followed her, and then, she knew who she was when she woke up, and they worked and worked and worked days and many difficulties that she didn't even mention for the family to get to South Africa. And so, and the hospitals, almost anyone in that area that's sick, if they're very sick, they have better hospitals in South Africa. Many of those countries, we've been to a few of the hospitals and you really don't want to go to them. Some of them I'd have to be really sick to, I'd have to be knocked out, I think, to go, because I've been in some that really is not clean, not a lot of things we could say about them. Now, the main thing, and we're going to have about 15 minutes, 2 things I want you to do. We'll go to sections. I want you to have prayer. And then I do want you to finish signing. What we're going to do with the Valentine's, you're not just signing, write little love notes, especially if they're in your circle. That's why I had them divided into 1, 2, 3, 4 circles, that you would give extra attention. I'd like for you to sign as many of them as you can, but especially those that would be in your circle, that you would give them a bit of extra little love notes, and we're going to then take them to the printer and fix them so we can email them and we're going to work on that this week to try to get them all emailed so they'll get them for Valentine's. We're getting some bad repercussions on getting emails that we thought were good, but we're going to work and get as many as we can to these. If we can't get them that way, we'll put them in an envelope and mail them. And maybe some of them that I've had come back, I may just do that. But we want to get them to them so that they'll have a little cheer and something to, on Valentine's Day, they'll know somebody thinking about them, praying for them, and cares. So prayer and then signing the ones that you haven't signed, especially those in your circle, and then the ones in your circle, and then, but first, take time to pray. There's many prayer requests, and you're not going to remember all of them, but you know what? You don't have to remember all of them. Remember as many as you can, and then say, yeah, that one Rosemary talked about, I think it was in Australia, and God can pick up on that, because he knows every one of them and every one of their things. So sometimes I'm praying for someone and I'll say, her son that has that hip gone, Lord, just help there. So you don't have to remember every name, even every detail. But if you can just remember, God can put it together and bless that family and that person. So I'm so glad all of you are here, a good group, and I think we're growing. We have several that haven't come on a regular basis joining us, and we want to try, as spring comes on, to get back all of our regulars, and some of you that are watching or did watch, thank you, and we'd love to have you join us as soon as you feel safe enough to come. And you're going to be praying, so we're going to close this session just by going to circles, like number 1, this direction, 2, this direction, 3 in the back, and 4 in the back there. How about that? So just go to your circles, have prayer, and then sign the cards. Thank you for coming.